This message will not speak to everyone, but if you've been walking through your days with a quiet ache in your chest, if you've ever sat in silence and wondered how someone who once swore they'd never leave could now be living like you were just another passing moment in their life, then you are not here by accident. You didn't imagine your pain. You didn't overthink their distance. I saw what they did when you weren't looking. I heard the things they said behind closed doors, and I know what it felt like to watch them slowly pull away without even offering a real goodbye. They thought it was easy. They believed you could be replaced. They convinced themselves that what they had with you wasn't that deep, but I allowed them to walk, because I knew the day would come when they'd realize they didn't just walk away from you. They walked away from something sacred. Now their world feels empty. Now their joy feels shallow. Now the silence is screaming. If your heart feels every word of this, type "I receive this word" in the comments, because this one is for you. They thought it was easy to walk away. I watched the moment they made up their mind. The moment they convinced themselves that leaving was the right thing. It didn't take much for them to turn away. There were no long talks, no sincere explanations, just distance. They became quieter, colder, gone. You stood there wondering what you did wrong. But the truth is, this wasn't about your failure. It was about their blindness. They acted like they had outgrown the connection. They told themselves there was something more exciting waiting on the other side. They thought someone else could give them what you gave, without the depth, without the effort. They were wrong. You weren't just a moment in their life. You were a movement of my grace. You brought calm to their chaos. You showed them love when they didn't even know how to receive it. You carried peace in your words, strength in your loyalty, and kindness in your silence. That wasn't ordinary. That was divine. But they treated you like a temporary fix, like something they could trade in when things got tough. They thought leaving would bring freedom, but all they found was emptiness. They walked into rooms hoping to forget you, but instead they remembered you everywhere. Because when someone walks away from a soul that was sent by me, they don't just walk away from love, they walk away from purpose. And now, the weight of that choice is beginning to press on them. They can't laugh like they used to. They can't enjoy the company of others the same way. They're realizing the love you gave them was not a coincidence, it was a covering. And when they stepped away from you, they stepped out of my covering. They thought walking away from you was easy, but the easy choice is now the one thing they regret the most. The replacement failed. Yes, they tried to replace you. They smiled wider. They shared photos with someone new. They posted statuses that looked like healing, but were hiding confusion. They tried to convince the world and themselves that they had moved on. But I saw past the surface. I saw that every post, every public laugh, and every new connection was a cover-up. Because what they found after you wasn't peace, it was pressure. What they walked into wasn't purpose, it was pretense. They didn't choose someone better. They chose someone easier to impress. Someone who didn't know their broken pieces. Someone who wouldn't challenge their growth. But when the excitement faded and the spotlight dimmed, they were left facing what they tried to ignore. They didn't just lose a person. They lost a presence that carried my anointing. You were planted in their life as a shield, a support system that I designed to cover them in prayer, patience, and love. But they couldn't see it while they had it. They thought love could be traded like something casual. They thought loyalty could be swapped like something common. But you were not common. You were covenant. You were my instrument of grace in their life. You stood in the gap when no one else noticed they were slipping. You stayed up in prayer for them when they didn't even know they were under spiritual attack. You endured storms that others would have run from. You didn't love them because they were perfect. You loved them even while they were broken. That kind of love can't be found just anywhere. They thought the next person would bring more joy, more ease, more peace. But peace doesn't come from people, it comes from presence. And when they left you, they left the space where my presence had been protecting them. Now they're waking up in a relationship that feels like noise. It may be louder, it may seem full, but it is spiritually empty. They compare their new connection to what they had with you, and they see the difference. They notice how shallow it feels, how misunderstood they are now, how they have to perform love instead of simply resting in it. They traded covenant for convenience, and now they're paying the price. They walked away from substance and settled for surface. They chose attention over intention, and deep down, they know it. They know they're not at peace. They know they were never really ready for the love you offered. They just thought someone else could give it easier, faster, without the depth. But now the illusion is cracking. The mask is slipping, the act is exhausting, and in the quiet moments when they're alone with their thoughts, they're facing the reality that the person they tried to replace was the one they were supposed to grow with. You weren't perfect, but you were real. You carried my voice into their confusion. You brought calm when their life was chaos. You gave more than they could see, and they gave less than they knew they should. Now the relationship they rushed into is teaching them hard lessons. Lessons about what love is, and what love is not. They see it now. They didn't just lose you. They lost what I gave them through you. The support, the favor, the spiritual security. And no matter how many pictures they post, no matter how much they pretend it doesn't matter, that truth is becoming louder than their pride. You are not just a person in their life, you are a gift from heaven. And they treated my gift like a backup plan. Now what they called freedom feels like a prison. Because no matter where they go, no matter who they try to love next, they carry the weight of what they didn't protect. And that weight is heavy. They regret what they didn't fight for. They're thinking about it now. Not once, not occasionally, but constantly. They remember the sound of your voice when you were tired of being strong. They remember how your eyes looked when you were begging them, silently, to care. They remember how many times you stayed, even when you had every reason to walk away. But now, all they have are memories. Now they replay what they once ignored. They regret not being there the night your soul broke in half. They regret the mornings they woke up and didn't ask how you were feeling. They regret making you feel like you had to fight alone, cry in silence, and heal yourself while still trying to love them. They chose pride over peace, distance over dialogue, excuses over effort. They regret never grabbing your hand and saying, "Let's fix this." They regret not covering you in prayer, not taking your fears seriously, not cherishing the love you poured out freely. You were never asking for too much. You were just asking for something real. But they gave you half-hearted promises and empty words. Now that you're no longer there to comfort them, they realize how cold the world really is. Now that you've stopped checking in, they feel the sting of their absence in your life. Now that you've gone quiet, the silence is screaming louder than your words ever did. They never imagined they'd lose you. They assumed you'd always be there. They thought your patience would never run out. But even the strongest hearts grow weary. Even the most forgiving souls get tired of bleeding for someone who won't bandage the wound. They used to think your love was soft, but now they know it was strength. They thought you were emotional, but now they see that you were deeply connected to my spirit. You weren't needy, you were spiritual. You weren't dramatic, you were discerning. And now that the crowd is gone and the music has faded, they're left with the weight of all the things they should have done. They should have pursued you when you pulled away. They should have fought harder instead of folding under pressure. They should have reminded you of your value, not made you question your place. Because now they see it. Now they recognize what they lost. They lost someone who prayed for their success. Someone who defended their name. Someone who stayed up late crying to me for their healing. Someone who saw them not for who they were, but for who they could become. They threw away a divine gift because they didn't know how to handle it. They thought they had time. They thought you'd never leave. They thought the world could offer them something greater. But now they know. Nothing compares to the kind of love that was shaped by my hand and rooted in my spirit. Their regret is deep. And it's not just about missing you. It's about realizing they didn't fight for the one thing that was sent to bless their life. I allowed their regret to teach them. You cried and asked me, "God, why did you let them leave?" You questioned why I didn't step in, why I didn't block their departure, why I allowed them to hurt you like that. But child, I never left you. I never turned my eyes away. I saw the pain you endured, and I held every tear that fell. But I allowed it, not to break you, but to grow them. Because some people will never learn the weight of love until they lose it. Some hearts will never wake up until they experience silence, and some souls will never look up until they've fallen low enough to see that their way isn't working. So I allowed the regret to come. I allowed the weight of your absence to teach them what your presence once gave freely. I let the quiet become a mirror that doesn't lie. A mirror that shows them everything they tried to ignore when they had you. This isn't about revenge. It's about refinement. I'm not punishing them. I'm correcting their vision, because they thought love was something they could receive without responsibility. They thought they could have access to your heart without protecting it. But love is not something to be used. It's something to be honored. When they walked away, they didn't just lose you. They lost the covering that came with you. They lost the prayers you whispered, the grace I gave them because of your intercession, the favor that flowed into their life through your obedience. And now, they're starting to see it. They're beginning to understand that you were more than a relationship. You were a divine assignment in their life. A shield, a spiritual gift, a vessel of my goodness. And yes, it hurts. It hurts them to see the love they misused now walking in peace without them. It hurts to know that someone else may receive what they once took for granted. But this pain is not without purpose. I am using the same regret they tried to hide, to humble them, to reveal their weakness, to awaken their need for me. Because before I can restore what is broken, I must reveal that it was broken. They are not the same as they were. And you, my child, are not the same either. I allowed the separation to build strength in you and self-awareness in them. And while they're facing the truth of what they lost, you are stepping into the truth of who you are. Let them feel the weight. Let them sit with what they didn't value. Not because I want them to suffer, but because I want them to change. True growth only happens in the soil of broken pride. And right now I'm planting new understanding in the place where they once carried arrogance. I am not done with their story, but I had to rewrite the chapter where they misused you. And in this season, their regret is the classroom. Their memory of you is the lesson, and I am the teacher. Why you had to let go. You've asked yourself so many times, did I do the right thing by letting them go? You've replayed it all, the conversations, the moments you stayed silent, the times you tried again and again, hoping they would finally see your worth. But I want you to know this. Letting go wasn't weakness. It wasn't giving up. It was obedience to me, because I saw what you couldn't see. I saw the pieces of yourself you were slowly losing just to keep something that was no longer carrying my blessing. You didn't stop loving. You stopped being dishonored. You stopped shrinking yourself just to make them feel bigger. You stopped begging for attention that should have been freely given. You stopped sacrificing your peace to hold on to a connection I had already released. That wasn't a failure. That was a step of faith. You could have stayed. You could have settled. But instead, you chose to walk away when your heart still loved them. And that's not weakness. That's strength rooted in me. You chose peace when confusion was familiar. You chose growth even though comfort tried to keep you stuck. You chose truth over the lie that told you this is the best it gets. That choice wasn't easy, but it was necessary. Because what you thought was the end was really me making room for the beginning of something holy. You were not created to be someone's second thought. You are not a backup plan. You are not disposable. You are my masterpiece. And I only place my masterpieces in the hands of those who know how to protect them. So when you let them go, you were not giving up on love. You were giving up on being mishandled. You were giving up on being drained. You were saying, I trust God more than I trust what I can see. And that trust is what elevated you. You may have cried while you walked away. You may have felt like your heart was breaking open. But in that breaking, I was building something new inside of you. You passed a test many don't even recognize. You chose to keep your soul intact instead of keep a person who no longer fit your future. You chose me over the illusion of what used to be. And that decision? That's why you're going higher now. That's why peace is finding you again. That's why you're starting to feel light in the places that once felt heavy. You didn't lose them. You released them. And in doing so, you made space for me to send what's real, what's lasting, and what's ordained. You didn't walk away empty. You walked away free. This wasn't the end of your story. This was your graduation. And I'm proud of you. Your healing is their wake-up call. You've been healing, even when it didn't feel like it. You've been rising, even while your heart was still aching. You've been choosing joy, peace, and purpose, little by little, day by day. And whether you know it or not, they've noticed. They're watching you from a distance, not always with words, but in silence, in memory, in quiet reflection. They see how your voice has changed, more calm, more sure. They see how your posture is different, no longer bent over by pain, but standing in confidence. They see your eyes, no longer searching for their attention, but glowing with a peace they can't explain. Your healing has become the loudest message they've ever heard. Because you were once broken, and now you're whole. You were once hoping they'd come back, and now you've moved on without waiting. They thought you needed them, but now they know you needed me. They're watching you walk in purpose. They're seeing your life align in ways it never did while they were in it. They're realizing that the version of you they took for granted was only the beginning. You're not the same. You're not bitter, you're better. You're not wounded, you're wiser. You're not desperate, you're developed. And now their regret has reached a deeper level. Not because you're trying to make them feel bad, but because your healing has made them realize just how much they mishandled you. They wish they had fought for you. They wish they had loved you better. They wish they had protected your heart instead of taking it for granted. But now it's too late to return to who you were, because that version of you no longer exists. You've evolved. You've grown. You've stepped into a place they can no longer access. And what stings the most is that you found joy without them. You've learned how to breathe without their validation. You've built strength in the same space where they left you empty. That strength, it didn't come from you alone. It came from me. Because when you stopped chasing their love, you started walking in my promises. When you stopped needing their approval, you started hearing my voice more clearly. When you let go of trying to be enough for them, you discovered that you've always been enough for me. And now I'm filling your life with what they could never give. Clarity, peace, stability, joy that doesn't change depending on who stays or who leaves. They thought their absence would break you, but instead it became your turning point. So let them regret. Let them wrestle with the memories. Let them carry the weight of what they lost. Because while they're grieving the past, you're stepping into the future I designed for you. Their regret doesn't get to write the next chapter. My promise does. Let me handle what they broke. You've carried the weight of what they did long enough. You've tried to make sense of it. You've replayed their words, their actions, their silence. You've wondered if it was your fault. You've questioned what more you could have done. But hear me now. You don't need their apology to move forward. You don't need to go back and fix what was never meant to last. You don't need their permission to heal. I am the one who saw it all, the conversations you never told anyone about. The moments you cried when the world thought you were fine. The nights you stayed up praying for someone who was already gone in spirit. And the pain of knowing you were easy to leave when all you ever wanted was to be chosen. But I am your healer. I am your comforter. And I am the one who restores what others break. So no, you don't have to wait for their text. You don't have to chase down the reasons why they didn't stay. I am your closure. And what I write next in your life won't need explaining. You've been through the fire, now you're coming out refined. You've been through rejection, now you're walking in recognition. You've been forgotten by them, but remembered by me. I'm writing a new chapter now. One that doesn't carry confusion. One that's built on truth, on peace, on sacred love. The kind that doesn't play with your heart. So don't look back. Don't mourn what I've already buried. Don't reach for the thing I removed to protect you. What's ahead of you is different. Someone is coming who won't just admire your light, they'll protect it. They won't just say they love you. They'll show it every day in ways that won't make you question or beg. Let go of what couldn't stay. And lean into what I've already prepared. Because while their regret may be loud, your restoration will be louder. Their chapter in your life is over. Now it's my turn to take the pen and write something that reflects your worth. A prayer of release and restoration. Father, I come to you with a heart that has been bruised but not broken, a soul that has been shaken but not destroyed. I thank you for seeing the moments I didn't tell anyone about, the silent nights, the unseen tears, the aching questions. Thank you for stepping in when I didn't have the strength to stand. Thank you for not letting my pain be wasted. I thank you for the doors you closed, even when I begged you to leave them open. I thank you for the people you removed, even when I thought I needed them to survive. Because now I see, what I thought was rejection was your protection. What I thought was abandonment was your redirection. I release the weight of unspoken dreams, the memories that still sting, and the pieces of myself I gave away trying to hold on to someone who wasn't meant to stay. I let go of the what-ifs and could-have-beens. I choose to stop replaying the pain, and I open my heart to what you are preparing, something greater, something sacred. Heal the parts of me that still long for what you've already removed. Touch the places in my heart that still grieve what I never received. Fill every empty space with your peace. Fill every unanswered question with your presence. I give you my past, every chapter, every scar. I give you my present, every breath, every step, and I surrender my future, every promise, every hope, every unknown moment into your hands. I know you are not done with my story, and I trust you to write the rest with beauty, honor, and purpose. In the mighty name of Jesus, amen.